Hi, my name is Dr. Kim Van Orden, and I'm delighted to tell you today about the Rochester Roybal Center for Social Ties and Aging Research, also known as the RocSTAR Center. I co-direct this center with my colleague Kathi Heffner, and both of us are based at the University of Rochester Medical Center in Rochester, New York. The RocSTAR Center is one of a NIA-funded Roybal Center for translational research in the behavioral and social sciences of aging. And our center in particular is focused on the construct of social connection, and social connection as a way to promote health and well-being for those caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. And so our mission is to support the social well-being as well as healthy aging of that group. And our objectives are to advance the development of novel, principle-guided behavioral interventions that can promote social connectedness for caregivers. And we do that in two ways. First, through our annual pilot award program, and then as well through center resources that we use to support rigorous, innovative, and multidisciplinary research. The premise of our work is that social connectedness is a key contributor to health and well-being. There is a wealth of research showing that caregivers for those with dementia are at high risk for both poor health outcomes as well as social disconnection. And our premise is that promoting social connection may be a particularly potent way to improve health and well-being for caregivers, because it may be more malleable than other aspects of the caregiver experience that contribute to distress. And as well, there's research showing that social connections may bolster positive perceptions of caregiving, and that itself may reduce lower caregiver burden. So we think that social connection is relatively underaddressed as a treatment target, and thus shows a lot of promise to promote caregiver health and well-being. We also know that despite the promise of promoting social connection, there's actually very little research that can guide or inform what type of intervention to recommend for anyone of any age. One could argue that there are actually no evidence-based interventions for connectedness in any population. There are some clinical trials that have shown promise for an intervention, but not enough to recommend any one intervention over another. As well, for many caregivers, available interventions that promote social connection are too multifaceted, intensive, or involve a lot of time out of the home, which can be very challenging when someone is already managing many competing demands as a caregiver. And as well, evidence-based interventions that have been shown to reduce caregiver distress have either been shown to not improve connectedness or have not been tested for their effects on social connection. So there's quite a bit we still need to learn about the promise of social connection for caregivers and how to best promote that for them. So the functions of our center are to administer the pilot award program, including funding 2 pilot studies each year. We also provide research support for our pilot investigators through assistance with recruitment, assessment, and data analysis. We also create opportunities for scientific and community connectedness and collaboration. So we don't just want to promote connection for our research subjects, we know that it's important for producing good science as well. So we have a monthly research seminar series, an annual RocSTAR Research Symposium, and we also coordinate with the National Network of Roybal Centers. A bit about our pilot core. The objective is to conduct multidisciplinary scientific activities focused on interventions, and these interventions in particular focusing on increasing social connection for caregivers. So our first aim is to grow the investigator pipeline via scientific outreach. We're very eager to engage individuals with diverse perspectives and expertise and get them enticed and interested in studying social connection for caregivers. We also support the studies that are funded through our pilot program, like I mentioned, with assistance with recruitment, study coordination, and data analysis. So we have experience and expertise in working with this population, and we like to make things as easy and as joyful as possible for our pilot investigators and make it possible for them to produce really high-quality science. Our work is principle-driven, and we study our interventions within the model of the NIH STAGE model, which is designed to really, as rapidly as possible, move interventions all the way along to dissemination and implementation, and get the research out there as quickly as possible to help people. while also producing very rigorous science. So the organizing principles of the work that we do is when we think about the situations that the caregivers we work with are dealing with, we know that the complexity of the biopsychosocial context of caregiving is just there's too many pieces to it for the possibility of a one-size-fits-all behavioral strategy to increasing connectedness. So we know that we won't be able to find one perfect intervention that will work for everyone. And that, in fact, what we really need to do from the outset is really think about that complexity and think about all the different factors that make a given intervention either acceptable or and feasible for someone who is providing care for a loved one. And so what we're hoping to do with our center, and that would be challenging to do without the structure of a research center, is to take the pilot work that all of our amazing investigators are doing and really bring it all together. We're very interested in producing a stepped care modular portfolio of interventions. So we'd like to be able to learn not just if these interventions work, but how they might work together, how we might think about starting with a less intensive intervention and adding more to someone if they might need it. And being able as well to think about it not just in terms of intensity, but what interventions people might prefer. So it's almost like having a menu, and you can think about being able to match an intervention to someone's preferences, to their needs, and what they're able to do at the time. And we're very interested in being able to use our work to grow that portfolio and think about being able to offer interventions in a way that are very flexible to caregivers. Of mechanisms we might want to study, and then also thinking about the really important principles in that intervention that can account for that change. We also want to consider the community context. So what is feasible for a community? And what are ways that we can make our interventions easier for them to deliver, including leveraging technology, such as we've all been practicing with Zoom over the year. We think about whether an intervention is compatible with a diverse set of caregiver needs. And as I mentioned before, it's really important for our studies to examine mechanisms and include a theoretical model. So our pilot award program, we have two different types of awards. The first is called the STAR Constellation Pilot Award, and that is a project that is aiming to bring together multidisciplinary collaborators and community partnerships. And then we also have the Proto-STAR Pilot Award, and this is an award to support a postdoctoral fellow or an early career faculty to also do interventions work for social connectedness in caregivers. We do require that at least one person in the team, the PI team, have someone at the U of R, but we're very eager to include investigators from other institutions that are able to partner with us. Our studies do have common inclusion criteria across them, and that's because, as I mentioned earlier, we're very eager to be able to take the work from all of the studies and bring them together and synthesize them to create potentially a modular portfolio. And so our subjects are providing care for a loved one at least 50 years or older, or somewhat younger for those caregivers who are Latino caregivers. And they are caring for a community-dwelling family member with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia and are living close by. Also, elevated caregiving distress and feeling socially disconnected, which we operationalize as feeling lonely. And we've chosen a loneliness score that is associated with morbidity and mortality. Thus far, we've already funded 6 pilot studies. In year 1, we funded 2 of them that we're thinking of as kind of foundational interventions for the portfolio. The first is called Connect for Caregivers, and the PI of that study is Dr. Sally Norton. This is a brief 1 or 2 session program that involves a prioritization tool. And what we mean by that is helping caregivers think through their priorities for social connection, as well as their personal barriers, and really getting them to start thinking about changes they might want to make. Social Engage is a pilot study that I was leading, and this one is focused on teaching caregivers problem-solving skills on ways that they can promote social connection. So it's actually not something that all of us think a lot about. And so Social Engage kind of gets the wheels turning just like Connect, and then provides a bit more support and problem-solving training to make those changes. In year 2, the first pilot study we funded is called Connect for Latino Caregivers. The PI of that study is Dr. Caroline Silva, and she, along with her colleague Maria Quinones, are studying the year 1 pilot interventions, but adapting them for Latino caregivers, including those who are primary Spanish speakers. And the other pilot award in year 2 is Mindfulness for Loneliness in Caregivers, and the PI of that study is Dr. Autumn Gallegos, and she is studying a mindfulness intervention, and an even more innovative way is that it's being provided via a smartphone app. And then finally, our Year 3 pilot awards were just selected. The first is Dyadic Life Review for Caregivers, and the PI is Lee Kehoe. This is a really innovative part to add to our portfolio because it's the first intervention that will be provided to the dyad, meaning to the caregiver and the person with memory problems. And they're going to receive that intervention together. And then the second award for Year 3 is being led by Dr. Benzie Kluger, and this is a program that's really looking through the lens of positive psychology and adapting a program called LEAF, and he's going to be adapting that to focus on improving positive emotions and doing it in a group format where caregivers can learn from and with each other. And so our pilot award program is ongoing, and here's some information about the upcoming release of it, which will be in November. Applications due in January. We also have some information up there about our process for how the applications are reviewed and how they're selected for funding, as well as the timeline. And then a key part of our process is that we take a cooperative agreement approach, where we work with the investigators to ensure alignment with the stakeholder priorities and the center resource utilization. So we really work together and are very connected with our investigators as they produce their RocSTAR science. We also have RocSTAR Center resource meetings with our PIs and subcores, and we're able to review protocols and budgets, and like I said, really work together to get the work submitted to NIH and go as efficiently as possible. So finally, given that we are all about connectedness, we would love to connect with you. So if you'd like to learn more about our work, our website address is on this slide. And as well, we do have a listserv. We don't send tons of emails, so if you'd like to be in touch with us and hear what we're up to, you can email us at rocstarcenter@urmc.rochester.edu, and we will add you to our listserv. So thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it, and take care.